Good afternoon. As you all know, last week, the bipartisan leadership of the House and Senate had a visit from the administration and from the Federal Reserve. The news they brought us was not good. It painted a dismal picture of our financial markets and the state of our financial institutions. That much of this was a result of the failed Bush administration economic policies, but also because of lack of regulation and discipline and supervision on the part of the administration. Whatever the reason, and I place it there, the proposal that the Bush administration presented a couple of days later on Saturday was unacceptable to us. $700 billion, a staggering number, but only a part of the cost of the failed Bush economic policies to our country. Policies that were built on budget recklessness. When President Bush took office, he inherited President Clinton's surpluses, 4 years in a row budget surpluses, on a trajectory of $5.6 trillion in surplus. And with his reckless economic policies, within 2 years, he had turned that around. And now, 8 years later, the foundation of that fiscal irresponsibility, combined with an anything-goes economic policy, has taken us to where we are today. They claim to be free market advocates when it's really an anything-goes mentality. No regulation, no supervision, no discipline. For too long, this government, 8 years, has followed a right-wing ideology of anything goes, no supervision, no discipline, no regulation.
I was disappointed that a process that over the last several days has yielded a bipartisan product involved negotiators from both sides of the building and both sides of the aisle, took a very marked partisan turn at the end of the debate, which was very different than the rhetoric that we heard out of Chairman Frank or Leader Hoyer or our leader John Boehner.
Americans are angry, and so are my colleagues. They don't want to have to vote for a bill like this. And I understand that. But I have concerns about what this means for the American people, what it means for our economy, and what it means for people's jobs. I think that we need to renew our efforts to find a solution that Congress can support. I do believe that we could have gotten there today had it not been for this partisan speech that the Speaker gave on the floor of the House. I mean, we put everything we had into getting the votes to get there today. But the Speaker had to give a partisan voice that poisoned our conference, caused a number of members that we thought we could get to go south. At the end of the day, this is not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about our economy and what's best for the American people. And regardless of what happened today, we have no choice, in my view, but to work together to try to find a solution to make sure that we save our economy and we save our constituents.
We did think we had a dozen more votes going to the floor than we had. No more than that, but we thought we had a dozen more. I think, unfortunately, too many of our members were already on the floor when they heard that late speech by the Speaker. During this whole process, the tone in the room was so much better than the tone outside the room. But every time you turn on television or read an article about the press reports of what the other side was saying, it was all about how Republicans either were unpatriotic or were there too late or whatever. Well, we're going to reach back out to them. We're certainly going to reach back out to our members. We're going to try to do our best to find a solution here that works for the American people.
Right here is the reason I believe why this vote failed. And this is Speaker Pelosi's speech that, frankly, struck the tone of partisanship that, frankly, was inappropriate in this discussion. And I think that this is a case of a failure of Speaker Pelosi to listen not only to her members, but certainly to our members and the common bonds that brought our members together on this very, very important issue facing the American people. This is not a partisan crisis. This is an economic crisis facing everyone in this country. And to look at the votes today, 94 Democrats voted no. 94. This caps off a year that I think has been probably the most unproductive year in the U.S. Congress that I've seen in my lifetime.
Republicans were saying they had the votes to pass this thing. But then Nancy Pelosi took to the floor and blamed a lot of this on the Bush economic policies and said there was no supervision, no oversight by the Bush administration, no discipline, the anything-goes mentality. She went after the Bush administration, and according to Republican leaders who were in favor of this plan, that flipped 12 members of the Republican caucus who were going to vote for it, made them vote against it. Now, that could be...
Today, when the legislation came to the floor, the Democratic side more than lived up to its side of the bargain. You impressed our members, and the President impressed the members about the gravity of the situation, that action was necessary to stabilize the markets and to protect the taxpayer. Clearly, that message has not been received yet by the Republican caucus.
Our country is challenged by a very severe economic downturn. The effort that was made today was supported by 60% of the Democrats, notwithstanding there are some reservations. Many had great reservations about the bill. We did so because the President, Secretary Paulson, the administration, and many others on both sides of the aisle, conservatives and liberal economists, said that the failure to act would not be an acceptable alternative.
After all of that, we came to the floor today with a piece of legislation that the members of our caucus decided was in the best interest of the country. And 60% of them put aside all of their individual feelings, emotions, experiences, and voted for this bill.
We've been working very hard for a week and a half trying to negotiate a bill that could pass the House. I am appalled. Frankly, that's an accusation against my Republican colleagues I would never have thought of making. Here's the story. There's a terrible crisis affecting the American economy. We have come together on a bill to alleviate the crisis. And because somebody hurt their feelings, they decide to punish the country. I mean, I would not have imputed that degree of pettiness and hypersensitivity. I mean, we also have, as the leader will tell you, who's been working with them, we don't believe they have the votes, and I think they are covering up the embarrassment of not having the votes. But think about this. Somebody hurt my feelings, so I will punish the country. I mean, that's hardly plausible. And there were 12 Republican members who were ready to stand up for the economic interests of America, but not if anybody insulted them. I'll make an offer. Give me those 12 people's names, and I will go talk uncharacteristically nicely to them. And tell them what wonderful people they are, and maybe they'll now think about the country.
Mr. Emanuel, Madam Speaker, could you address, you've sat in
In one of the truly great coincidences in the history of numerology, the number of deeply offended Republicans who put feeling over country turned out to be exactly the number you would need to reverse the vote.
Section 109 of the proposed...
Well, you're watching the food fight on Capitol Hill. Those who said they wouldn't make this partisan witness Exhibit A. Democrats have just blamed Republicans. Here's a fact for you. If Democrats could have passed this all by themselves, the Democrats are the majority in Congress. The Democrats are the majority in the House of Representatives. The Democrats had 94 votes nay. If the Democrats had voted for this bill would have passed. And in the 15 minutes since they've been speaking, the Dow has gone down more than another 100 points. And we are flirting with the largest one-day decline in the history of Wall Street.